Tesco's profits hit £2.3 billion last year. Sainsbury's, Asda, and Morrison's all posted record numbers. And every single one of those billions came directly out of British kitchens. Not because food got more expensive, because we forgot how to cook it. Number 17 on this list could cut your weekly food bill by £40 on its own. Number 8 turns the cheapest cut in the butcher's counter into something that tastes better than fillet steak. And number 3 is something professional. Chefs in London charge £28 a plate for, but it costs you 60 pence to make at home. These are not diet tricks, not meal prep influencer nonsense. These are the practical working kitchen techniques that British cooks used for generations before supermarkets convinced us we needed sauces in jars, pre-grated cheese, and 4-pound bags of seasoned breadcrumbs. Before we start, hit subscribe, because by the end of this video, you will look at your weekly shop completely differently. Let us count down all 30. Number 30. Buy the whole chicken. Break it down yourself. A whole chicken from Morrison's costs £3.89. 4 chicken breasts from the same store cost £5.50. 2 thighs cost £2.30. Drumsticks cost £1.80. That is nearly a tenner for what you could have had for under £4. Your grandmother never bought chicken portions. She bought the bird. Breaking it down takes 5 minutes with a decent pair of kitchen scissors. Breast fillets come off with 2 cuts. Legs twist free at the joint. Thighs separate from drumsticks in seconds. You end up with 4 portions of white meat, 4 dark meat pieces, and a carcass that goes straight into a pot with an onion and some cold water. That carcass produces 2 litres of proper chicken stock that supermarkets charge £1.35 a carton for. Master this one trick, and you are saving somewhere between £6 and £8 every single week, without eating differently at all. Number 29. Freeze your butter, then grate it. Cold butter makes better pastry. Every baker knows this in theory, but cutting cold butter into cubes and rubbing it into flour takes 10 minutes, and still leaves warm patches from your hands. Frozen butter grated directly into the flour solves everything in 2 minutes flat. Put your block of butter in the freezer for 20 minutes before you need it. Pull it out and run it across a cheese grater, tossing the shreds straight into the flour as you go. You end up with perfectly even, ice-cold fat particles distributed throughout the mix before your hands have warmed anything. The result is pastry that is consistently shorter, flakier, and more tender than the rubbed version. This works for scones too. Frozen butter grated into scone mix produces a rise that pastry class students spend 3 terms trying to achieve. Your Nan did not go to pastry class. She just kept her butter cold. Number 28. The pasta water save. Every time you drain pasta into the sink, you are pouring away the single best sauce ingredient in your kitchen. Pasta water is starchy, slightly salty, and it emulsifies fat and liquid together in a way that nothing else does. Before you drain, ladle out a full mug of the cooking water and set it aside. When your sauce is ready, add 2 or 3 tablespoons of that starchy water and stir. The sauce will cling to the pasta instead of pooling at the bottom of the bowl. It stretches a thin sauce into something that coats every strand. Professional Italian kitchens treat pasta water like gold. British home cooks drain it straight down the plug hole every single night, and then wonder why their bolognese does not taste like the restaurant version. Number 27. Salt your aubergines. Always. Aubergines cost about 65 pence each at most supermarkets. They are one of the best value vegetables in Britain, filling, meaty, and completely satisfying in everything from curries to pasta bakes. But most people cook them wrong and find them bitter and oily. The trick your grandmother knew: slice them, lay them on a tea towel, and salt them generously. Leave for 30 minutes. The salt draws out bitter moisture through osmosis. Pat them completely dry before cooking. Two things happen. The bitterness disappears entirely, and because the cells have released their water, the aubergine absorbs far less oil during frying, which means your dish is lighter and your bottle of oil lasts twice as long. One vegetable, one technique, two problems solved. Panko breadcrumbs from the supermarket cost £1.85 for 200 grams. The bread you forgot to finish costs nothing because you have already paid for it. Any bread that has gone stale but not moldy can be blitzed in a food processor, spread on a baking tray, and dried in a low oven at 120 degrees for 20 minutes. Store in a jar. These breadcrumbs coat chicken, top a gratin, bind fish cakes, and finish a pasta bake for months. A bag of stale crusts produces enough crumbs to last a fortnight. The supermarket is selling you something you are already throwing away. Stop throwing it away. Number 25. The dry brine for Sunday roast. Most people salt their chicken or beef joint right before it goes in the oven, or they do not salt it at all. The dry brine method changes everything. Salt your joint the night before and leave it uncovered in the fridge overnight. The salt draws moisture to the surface, then the meat reabsorbs it, taking the salt deep into the muscle. The skin or fat cap dries out completely overnight. The result when it goes into the hot oven. The outside crisps faster and the inside stays juicy longer. You are using the same cheap ingredients, salt and meat, but the timing transforms the result. No basting, no covering with foil, no adding stock to keep it from drying out. Just patience and a night in the fridge. Cheaper cuts respond to this even better than expensive ones. Number 24. Porridge oats in mince. Here is where the money really starts. 1 pound of beef mince from Aldi costs about £3.20 and feeds 4 people at a push. But add 50 grams of dry rolled oats to that mince before you brown it for bolognese, cottage pie, or chili, and it feeds 6 comfortably. The oats absorb liquid during cooking, swell to almost nothing, and take on the flavor of the meat entirely. Nobody can taste them. What they can taste is a richer, denser, more satisfying sauce that holds together better on the plate. Professional caterers have used this technique for decades. It stretches protein without tasting like stretching protein. At roughly 40 pence for a 500-gram bag of oats, you are adding pennies to the dish and removing the need to buy an extra pack of mince. Number 23. Roast your stock vegetables first. Making stock from scratch sounds like the kind of thing only people with too much time do. But if you are already roasting anything, a chicken, a tray of vegetables, a joint, the stock practically makes itself. Instead of throwing the carcass or vegetable scraps into a pot with cold water, roast them first. The bones go back in the oven for 20 minutes at 200 degrees. The onion skins, carrot tops, and celery ends go in alongside them. They turn brown and caramelized, and when you add that to cold water and simmer for an hour, you get a dark, rich, deeply flavored stock that bears absolutely no resemblance to the watery beige liquid that comes from supermarket cartons. Freeze it in ice cube trays. 1 cube goes into gravy, risotto, pasta sauce. Soup. Every cube is £1.35 you are not spending at Waitrose. Number 22. Bicarbonate of soda on cheap beef. This is the trick that Chinese restaurant kitchens have used for decades, and British home cooks have mostly never heard of. Take the cheapest stewing beef you can find. Slice it thin. Toss it with a 1/4 teaspoon of bicarbonate of soda and a splash of water. Leave for 20 minutes, then rinse. The alkaline environment breaks down muscle protein before cooking even starts. That tough, chewy braising beef now stir-fries in 2 minutes and comes out as tender as a much more expensive cut. A kilo of braising steak at £7 a kilo produced the same result as a kilo of sirloin at £22. The science was confirmed by food researchers at Kiel University. Your local Chinese takeaway has known this for 40 years. Number 21st. Cold water pastry. Every recipe will tell you to use cold butter, cold water, and to work quickly. What they do not tell you is that ice water is even better. Fill a glass with water, drop in 3 ice cubes, and use that water in your pastry. The temperature keeps the fat solid longer, giving you more time to work the dough without warming it. The difference is dramatic. Short, crisp, light pastry versus tough, chewy pastry comes down almost entirely to temperature control. No expensive ingredients, no special equipment, just ice cubes. Your Cornish pasties, your pies, your tarts, all transformed by something you already have in the freezer. First pattern break. Number 20. Buy mince. Not sausages. Here is where the supermarkets are making serious money from you. Pork sausages contain around 50% pork mince, sometimes less. The rest is breadcrumbs, water, seasoning, and a casing that contributes nothing to the flavor of a toad in the hole or a pasta sauce. Premium pork mince costs about £2.80 a kilo. Premium pork sausages cost £4.50 a kilo for a product that is roughly half pork. Shape the mince into your own sausage patties with a pinch of fennel, sage, salt, and white pepper. It takes 90 seconds. You get full pork flavor with no filler, and you have paid for meat, not bread. Sausage manufacturers spent considerable money in the 1990s lobbying for regulations that allowed more water content in sausages. They won. The sausage got cheaper to make. The price did not go down. Pre-grated cheese from the supermarket costs approximately 30% more per gram than a block of the same cheese. That is before you factor in the anti-caking agents and cellulose coating that make pre-grated cheese slightly worse at melting. A block of mature cheddar from Lidl costs £1.65 for 400 grams. An equivalent bag of pre-grated cheddar costs £2.10 for 350 grams. If you go through 2 bags of grated cheese a week, perfectly normal for a family, you are spending £219 a year more than you need to. Buy the block. Grate it yourself. Freeze what you grate in a bag, and it stays loose and usable straight from the freezer for months. 1 box grater. 1 habit change. £219. Back in your pocket. Number 18. The overnight oats method for porridge. A 1 kilogram bag of Quaker oats costs £1.65. A box of 8 individual Quaker instant porridge sachets costs £2.80. You are paying £1.15 more for oats that have been processed into a form that requires no overnight soaking, a task that takes approximately 4 seconds to perform. Pour oats into a bowl. Cover with milk or water. Put in the fridge. Morning. Done. The overnight soak makes the oats softer and more digestible than even the instant version. You are eating better food for less money, and the only thing you sacrificed was the experience of tearing a foil sachet. Number 17. Batch cook and freeze in portions. This is the single most powerful money-saving technique in the British kitchen, and the least practiced. The maths are brutal in their simplicity. A homemade bolognese sauce made in a pot of 10 portions costs about £12 in ingredients and 40 minutes of your time. 5 of those portions, frozen individually, equal 5 ready meals. The Tesco equivalent, a lasagna or pasta bake ready meal, costs between £2.50 and £3.50 per portion. 5 ready meals cost at least £15. You have spent £3 less and eaten better food. Scale this across the week. Cook once at the weekend. Eat 5 times. The freezer is not a graveyard for forgotten food. It is a money machine that only works if you use it deliberately. A 2-liter bottle of semi-skimmed milk from Asda costs £1.25 and lasts a week in the fridge. A 400-gram bag of dried skimmed milk powder from the same store costs £2.20 and makes roughly 40 litres of milk equivalent when reconstituted, enough to last months. For any baking application, such as scones, pancakes, cakes, white sauce, and custard, reconstituted milk powder performs identically to fresh. The flavor difference is negligible once it hits heat. Your grandmother used milk powder during rationing and kept using it for years afterwards because it worked and kept well. The fridge milk you buy fresh is for cups of tea. For everything that goes in the oven, powder works just as well for a fraction of the price. Number 15. Marinate cheap chicken thighs overnight. Chicken thighs are the most underrated cut in the British supermarket. They are cheaper than breasts, more flavorful than breasts, and harder to overcook than breasts. A pack of 8 bone-in thighs from Aldi costs roughly £3.50. They respond to marinade in a way that chicken breasts simply do not, because the higher fat content carries flavor deep into the meat. A marinade of yogurt, lemon, garlic, and cumin costs about 20 pence to make. Leave the thighs overnight. Roast at 200 degrees for 35 minutes. What lands on the table tastes like something from a proper restaurant kitchen. People pay £14 for a quarter of a chicken at a Nando's. You have just made 8 thighs for £3.70. Second pattern. Break number 14. Stop buying fresh herbs in packets. Supermarket fresh herb. Packets cost between 80 pence and £1.20 each. You use a small amount, and the rest wilts in the fridge within 4 days. It goes in the bin, and you buy a new packet next week. The annual cost of throwing away supermarket herb packets in the average British household runs to somewhere between £80 and £150 a year. The herb industry knows this. They have lobbied for prominent placement near checkouts for decades. The solution is simple, and it takes about 10 minutes of your time once. Buy a basil plant, a mint plant, a parsley plant, and a chives plant from the garden centre. They cost about £1.50 each. Put them on your windowsill. Water them twice a week. They will outlast 100 supermarket packets and provide more herb than you can use. One afternoon of repotting, one permanent habit change, and potentially £150 a year back in your shopping budget. Number 13. Toast your spices before using them. A small jar of cumin from a supermarket costs £1.50. Used straight from the jar in a curry or tagine, it gives a baseline warmth. Toasted dry in a heavy pan for 60 seconds before you grind it or add it, the volatile oils activate, and the flavor deepens by a factor that experienced cooks can smell from the other room. The implication is this: you need less. A teaspoon of toasted cumin delivers what 2 teaspoons of untoasted cumin cannot. Your £1.50 jar lasts twice as long. Every spice in your cupboard responds to dry toasting: coriander, cardamom, fennel, black pepper, smoked paprika. The technique takes no extra time once it becomes a habit. You are not buying better spices, you are just using the ones you have properly. Brisket costs £4.50 a kilo at most British supermarkets. Sirloin costs £22 a kilo. Slow cook that brisket at 90 degrees for 8 hours with an onion, a carrot, and half a tin of tomatoes, and you get a result that makes dinner guests assume you spent significantly more than you did. The collagen in tough cuts, like brisket, shin, cheek, and oxtail, melts into gelatin during long, slow cooking. This creates a sauce that is naturally thick, glossy, and rich, without adding anything to it. A slow cooker from Argos costs £19.99 and pays for itself within a month. The cuts that work best in it are always the cheapest ones in the butcher's counter. This is not a compromise. This is the superior cooking method for the cheaper product, producing the better result. Number 11. Make your own stock cubes. A box of Knorr beef stock cubes contains 8 cubes and costs £1.20. Each cube is essentially compressed, dehydrated stock with a great deal of salt added. You can make something considerably better at home with ingredients you already have. Every time you roast anything, pour the pan drippings into an ice cube tray and freeze. Every time you make stock, reduce it hard until it is intensely flavored and syrupy. Then pour that into an ice cube tray. Each frozen cube is worth approximately 1.5 commercial stock cubes in terms of flavor depth. The salt content is entirely under your control. The flavor is better in every measurable way. You have paid for the meat that produced the drippings. The stock cube you get from it costs nothing more. Number 10. Use yogurt as a cream substitute. Double cream costs £1.10 for 300 millilitres. A 500-gram pot of full-fat Greek yogurt costs £1 and goes considerably further. In most hot sauce applications, a chicken korma, a pasta sauce, a stroganoff, yogurt performs identically to cream once it is stirred in off the heat. The critical instruction is off the heat. Yogurt splits if you boil it. Stir it into your sauce once the pan has come off the hob, and the result is creamy, rich, and almost indistinguishable from the double cream version. In cold applications, dolloped onto pudding, stirred into soup, or mixed into dressings, yogurt is often better than cream because the slight tang adds something that plain fat cannot. More nutrition, more volume, less cost, and a longer shelf life than fresh cream. Third pattern. Break. Number 9. Stop buying bagged salad. Bagged salad is the most expensive water in the British supermarket. A 100-gram bag of mixed leaves costs £1. It is 95% water. You are paying £1 for approximately 5 grams of actual leaf material. Within 2 days in your fridge, it has gone slimy in the bag, and most of it goes in the bin. A whole iceberg lettuce costs 49p and lasts a week in the fridge. A head of romaine costs 59p. A 200-gram bag of spinach costs 85p and does not wilt the same way. The pre-washed mixed leaf industry made £340 million in Britain last year. Every marketing effort they make is targeted at making you feel that tearing your own leaves is inconvenient. Tearing a lettuce takes 45 seconds. You are paying 51p for those 45 seconds every single time you buy a bag. Over a year, if your household goes through 2 bags a week, that is £53 spent on the experience of not tearing lettuce. Number 8. Reverse sear cheap steaks. This technique is the reason restaurants charge £28 for a flat iron steak. Flat iron costs about £8 a kilo at a good butcher. Sirloin costs £25 a kilo and produces a similar eating experience if you cook it correctly. Reverse sear. Put the steak in a 120 degrees Celsius oven on a rack for 20 to 25 minutes until the internal temperature reaches 52 degrees Celsius. Then sear it in a screaming hot cast iron pan for 60 seconds on each side. The result is edge-to-edge perfect medium rare with a thick, dark, flavorful crust that a standard pan fry can never produce. The low oven heats the meat uniformly. The hot pan creates the Maillard reaction on an already hot surface, so it sears in seconds rather than minutes. No gray band, no overcooked ring around the outside. Every single slice, exactly as you intended. Buy cheaper steak. Cook it better. Number 7. Freeze overripe bananas. Every household in Britain throws away approximately 1.4 million bananas every single day. A banana that has gone too ripe to eat fresh is too sweet and soft, and most people bin it. But a frozen overripe banana, blended, becomes ice cream. Not a simulation of ice cream. Actual, scoopable, creamy frozen dessert that tastes of intense banana, with a texture nearly identical to soft serve. 2 frozen bananas, blended with a tablespoon of peanut butter and a splash of milk, produce a pudding that would cost £4.50 at a restaurant, and costs you the price of 2 bananas you were going to throw away anyway. Add a square of dark chocolate, and it costs 15 pence to make. Stop buying Magnum ice creams and start freezing the bananas you already bought. The stems of broccoli contain more nutrients than the florets, and they cost the same because they are attached to the florets you buy. Most people cut them off and bin them. Peeled and sliced thin, broccoli stems stir-fry in 2 minutes and taste almost identical to the florets. Carrot tops look bitter, but blanched for 30 seconds and used as a herb. They add a fresh, slightly mineral flavor to soups and pestos. Celery leaves are more intensely flavored than celery stalks, and they go brilliantly in stocks and salads. You are buying these parts of the vegetable every single week. You are throwing them in the bin every single week. The supermarket is not selling them to you. You have already paid for them. Start eating them. 4th pattern break. Number 5. Make your own oat milk. Oat milk from Oatly costs £1.40 per litre. A kilogram bag of rolled oats costs £1.09. 1 litre of oat milk requires roughly 100 grams of oats, which is 11 pence worth of oats. Blend 100 grams of oats with 1 litre of cold water for 30 seconds. Strain through a tea towel or muslin. Refrigerate. Done. The result is oat milk with none of the rapeseed oil and gum additives that commercial oat milk contains to make it froth for coffee. Baristas and recipe developers report that homemade oat milk behaves better in hot drinks than many commercial versions because there are no stabilizers competing with the heat. You are paying £1.29 in your necessary margin per litre. If your household uses 2 litres a week, that is £134 a year, for the privilege of someone else blending oats and water. Number 4. Lemon juice on cut fruit and vegetables stops browning. Pre-cut fruit and vegetables in supermarkets are treated with citric acid to stop them browning. You buy a bag of pre-cut apple slices for £1.60 when a whole apple costs 25 pence, partly because the supermarket has performed this chemical service for you. A simple squeeze of lemon juice over any cut fruit or vegetable does exactly what their citric acid treatment does. Leftover half an avocado, for example. Give it a squeeze of lemon, cover it, and it will keep for another 2 days. Sliced apples for a lunchbox need just a squeeze of lemon, and 3 hours later, they will still be white. For guacamole, press lemon juice directly onto the surface before you wrap it in cling film, and it will keep overnight. Every time you buy pre-cut anything, you are paying a premium for a 10-second task. Do the task yourself. Buy the whole fruit. Number 3. Salt cod or pork in your own brine. Supermarkets charge a significant premium for anything that has been cured, brined, or marinated before it reaches the shelf. Brined pork chops at Waitrose cost £6.50 for 4. Plain pork chops cost £3.20 for 4. The brine is water, salt, sugar, and sometimes herbs. Making your own takes 3 minutes. Dissolve 3 tablespoons of salt and 1 tablespoon of sugar in 1 litre of cold water. Submerge the pork chops and refrigerate for at least 4 hours, ideally overnight. The brine penetrates the meat, seasons it all the way through, and crucially, keeps it moist during cooking. Brined pork does not dry out. Plain pork dries out almost immediately. You are paying £3.30 for water, salt, sugar, and time. Give yourself the time. Keep the £3.30. Number 2. Use the heel of the loaf. Every loaf of bread produces 2 heels that the majority of British households quietly discard or leave in the bag until they go moldy. A heel of bread is structurally identical to any other slice. The only difference is surface area of crust, which, for the majority of applications, such as toast, sandwiches, and soldiers, matters not at all. A standard 800-gram loaf at Tesco costs £1.35. 2 wasted heels per loaf represent roughly 10% of that loaf going in the bin every single week. Over a year of weekly shopping, you are throwing away the equivalent of about 8 full loaves, roughly £11 worth of bread for no reason. Eat the heels. Make them into breadcrumbs if you genuinely cannot face them as toast. They are bread. You paid for bread. Number 1. Buy your protein at closing time on Saturday. Every major British supermarket, such as Tesco, Sainsbury's, Asda, Morrisons, and Waitrose, reduces fresh meat, fish, and prepared foods by 30% to 75% in the hours before closing on Saturday evening and Sunday morning. This is not a secret. It is how stock management works. The discount appears on yellow stickers, typically 2 to 3 hours before closing. Chicken, salmon, mince, steak, sausages, and whole joints all appear at fractions of their shelf price because the store needs them gone before the Monday morning delivery. A family that shops this window once a week can cut their protein spend by 40% without changing what they eat. Buy more than you need and freeze what you will not use that day. A freezer full of protein bought at the Saturday reductions is worth more to a British household budget than any meal kit subscription, any loyalty card scheme, and any voucher the supermarket has ever printed. The supermarket is essentially paying you to shop at inconvenient times. Show up at inconvenient times. There it is. 30 techniques that your kitchen can start using this week without buying anything new or eating differently. Try number 1 this Saturday. Just show up to your local supermarket at 7 in the evening and have a look at those yellow stickers. Then come back and tell me what you found. Share the 1 technique you are starting with in the comments. I want to know if the oat milk brigade outnumber the chicken breakdown crowd. This is not about going backwards. It is about remembering that a kitchen is a tool, and the people who used it best were the ones who understood exactly what it could do.